Hi guys, good morning and happy Tuesday. I feel like it's been a while since I actually did one of these kind of motivational videos on just reflecting on life. Everybody goes through difficult times, ups and downs, and some of us are just so busy. Like, I actually just finished my third year of my PhD program, and I'm just like, I forgot what it felt like just to have like free time, so to speak, a little free time anyway. So I figured I'd do this video. This topic has kind of been on my mind about how people sometimes get arrested by their past failures or experiences in life, and it spills over into their present, and it gets in the way. It gets in the way of their progress in life. And it's sad. Like, I've seen this happen firsthand, of course, being that I'm a therapist and I work with clients, but even just on a personal level, interpersonal level, working with people, working, having friendships, family members, and just taking a step back and just looking at people's lives, including my own, and seeing how sometimes we cripple our own selves. And I know that we live in a very dynamic society where there's racism, there's discrimination, there's very bad experiences with minorities, being mistreated and treated harshly by people of other races just because of the color of our skin. Like, we've been through a lot, right? And a lot of times we sometimes attribute our failures, we attribute our roadblocks in life, our obstacles to things that are outside of us, things that are in society and, the system this, the system that. We blame other people, women blame men, men blame women, but it's like, who is actually taking a look at themselves to say, maybe it's me, maybe I am getting in my own way of achieving, and I think that people who are well adapted in life, people who are mature, people who are honest with themselves can take a look at their own shit and be honest enough to say, you know what, I am getting in my own way. Now, of course, you do have people that will pause and be like, you know what, I messed up, I apologize, but they find themselves stuck in this cycle of self-sabotage, and a lot of times it is our past experiences in life that keep us crippled and impede our progress. They get in the way of our blessings, and we wonder why. Why can't I advance in life? Why am I still stuck? Why am I not moving or going anywhere? And that's what I kind of want to talk about a little bit in this video while I have some time. I'm actually, after this video, I'm going to go to the library and finish this report that I have, the last little bit of work that I have for this semester. And you guys, just come along. Feel free to comment, share your thoughts, concerns, opinions, experiences. I think that makes the video a little bit more rich when you guys interact and you guys give pieces of your own life, as you feel comfortable sharing with us on this video. Feel free to comment. But yeah, it's like I see it playing out so often, of course, in the professional world, working with my clients. But I think what really strikes me is when it hits close to home and when I am involved in a relationship, whether it's business or personal, and even when I observe, I see these things happening to people that are in close proximity or in my inner circle. And I'm just like, really? And I think this is a thing because I think we all fall victim to it. We all are guilty of doing this very thing. And I think it's important, if you have people that you trust in your inner circle, people that love you, people that you love, you can be able to receive what they have to say. You can be able to receive when they kind of notice when you're slipping. Like, some of us don't like to be checked by people in our inner circle. We feel like we're doing everything right. We want to be told what to do. Nobody can tell us nothing. And that in and of itself is a problem. No one is beyond correction. You know, if anything, you should crave it. You should want people to say, you know, hey, I noticed this about you, you know, especially when you don't see it happening within yourself. And so, one thing I've noticed recently, I've come across a person who, of course, has a very colored history, very dynamic, very rich, you know, filled with positive and negative experiences in life. And the interesting thing about how we put value to our experiences, you know, we label them good and bad. And I had a conversation with one of my clients and said, it's not about really good and bad. You know, it's not about how it's not about what we put on our experiences in terms of, oh, that was a good experience or a bad experience, but it's really what we learn from it, what that experience meant to us, what did it create for us in our lives, you know. And so we go through these very challenging moments in our life, and a lot of it stems, of course, in childhood. And you know, some people can say that, you know, they didn't have the best upbringing. They wasn't raised by, you know, a father, you know, or have a mother in their life. They were mistreated. They were abused. Just got a really shitty deck of cards to have to live with and deal with in their life. And unfortunately, especially within the African American community, it's like there's a stigma when it comes to mental health, and especially getting counseling and getting help. It's like not all of us, but a good significant portion of us, we don't want to go to therapy. We don't want to sit down with a professional and take a look at our lives and say, how have my experiences shaped the person I am today? And in a good way, because it's not always about looking at, okay, the symptoms and what's wrong with the person, but also looking at what's right, like what's working in your life, you know? People don't want to take the time to do it. It can be pretty scary because that means that you have to look in the mirror. You have to take an honest look at yourself and be able to accept the parts of yourself, you know, that you like, that maybe you can't even change, and be challenged enough to work towards bringing about change within those parts of yourself that are dysfunctional, is causing disruption in close relationships, personal, business, professional, that is negatively impacting your life. It's like we don't want to do that. And I came across this person, like I said, who that has been his experience. Like he hasn't had the best deck of cards, but he's making do with what he has, right? And in interacting with him, like he gets triggered very easily. And I think that is a telltale sign that a person has not quite healed from past traumas. Like when the smallest thing can trigger you, something is wrong. And when your reaction is like way over the top, right? Like you just go from 0 to 100, and you go from not even thinking rationally. You know, you go from rational thought to irrational thought, and the things that you do, things that you say just aren't making any sense. What's up, Ajadi James? So yes, we're talking about how our past impacts our present, and it can block our current blessings and future blessings, and we wonder why we get stuck. Like, why can't I make it in life? Why am I not excelling in life? And it's because we have crippled ourselves. And it's easier, I think, for many people to blame the system, or to blame, oh, women are this way, or men are that way, or they did this to me. But no one really wants to pause and take a look at themselves and say, okay, what am I doing? Or what can I do differently to yield a better outcome for myself, especially when it comes to relationships that you have with people? Because I think that's a significant part in our lives, you know? The relationships that we create with other people can really make or break us. You know, it affects our mental health. It affects our sanity, our happiness, you know. And people, when they go through tough times or things aren't working, they tend to isolate themselves and they don't want to be around nobody. And think about how that impacts your mental health and well-being. People become depressed, you know, you become sad and lonely. And when your mental health is not at its best, then you're not functioning at your best. It impacts your productivity at work. You know, if you have a job, you're working for a company, it negatively impacts your own business if you're self-employed. It stagnates you, and that's not what you want. You want to thrive, you want to excel, you want to go to the highest heights, you want to, you know, touch the stars. You know, the sky is the limit. Like, you want to continue to excel in life. But if you have these flaws that inherent within your character, inherent within your way of thinking and reacting to situations and interacting with people, that can be a problem. Now, my passion lies in being able to look within myself to see areas of growth with myself and be able to share that with other people. You know, the last thing I want for myself is to be stuck in a situation. It's like, yes, you know, a person can get all the accolades, all the degrees, you know, and you may excel in certain areas in your life, but you're still lacking in other areas. And we want to excel in all areas of our life, in all facets of our life, you know, professional, business, personal, relationships, you know, within our own mental well-being. We want to thrive. That's what we want. And so to me, it saddens me when I see people, and it's so apparent how they are stuck in their past, you know. And you'll hear things like, oh, well, you don't know what I've been through. You know, this person did this to me. When I grew up, I was always told that I wasn't good enough. And it's just like, when you're interacting with this person, it's like out of nowhere they start mentioning these things. And you're like, where is this coming from? You know, basically that person is getting triggered by certain things that is happening in the present. And it takes them back to what life was like for them in their past. It happens not only, you know, it's not a man thing. You know, I mentioned, you know, a male friend as an example, but it happens to the best of us, both men and women. I think a lot of times in the media we see it where it plays out with women, where women get, you know, triggered because maybe they have been abused, you know, sexually or physically when they were growing up or in previous relationships. And it comes out where they aren't able to trust other men. You know, they have this guard up, and in their present, they interact with men, and the men are like, what's happening? You know, what I do? And it's like they get taken aback. It can be the smallest thing. Maybe you said a word that reminds them of something that happened to them in the past, and then automatically they go back. You know, it's like kind of symptomatic of post-traumatic stress disorder. You know, that's pretty much the hallmark of it. People get triggered by things that happen in the present, and it takes them back to that very traumatic experience that they happened to them in their past, and they get stuck. They can't even move forward. They get fixated. They start to perseverate on that particular thing, and it's just like, why? And you wonder why there's so much conflict in relationships. There's a lot of arguing. That's pretty much what it leads to, you know, because that person is in distress at that point. And you're like, what did I do? Like, how do we get to this point? It's not healthy when it comes to relationships. It's not healthy for the individual, even by themselves, let alone when they begin to interact with other people, you know? And I've seen this happen numerous times, like recently, with a very prominent figure, you know, and other people I'm sure can attest to this. I'm not going to mention any names in this video, but it's just sad to see how, yes, people have gone through very difficult and challenging times, and things are fucked up. It's like the experiences that people go through, they didn't ask to go through that, you know. It's like more that they were a victim to a certain situation, whether it was bullying, whether it was, you know, harassment, attacks, being mistreated by someone, you know, being taken advantage of, and then it creates this new person. And granted, that new person that is created as a result of what's happened to them, it's a protective mechanism. It's an adaptive part of who they are. It's a way that allows them to be able to survive, you know, in that moment in response to what happened to them. But even those adaptation skills that they develop, this only specific to certain environments, you know. So yes, they may be able to develop an adaptation skill, let's say to be able to detect when they're being taken advantage of or being lied to, or be able to detect certain instances of potential abuse from a person that they interact with so that it doesn't happen to them again. But they carry that same way of being everywhere they go. So in certain environments, yes, it's healthy and it's adaptive and it's a protective mechanism to think and behave that way in certain environments. But you go to a different environment, it doesn't work. It's dysfunctional. The functionality of that protective mechanism of being guarded and being keyed up, having this certain degree of anxiety is a protective mechanism in a certain environment. But when they go somewhere else and interact with different people that have nothing to do with that particular situation, it doesn't fit. It's not functional, and that therein lies a problem. You can kind of, to be able to better conceptualize what I'm saying, just think about veterans of war. Yes, when they are cross seas, right, and they're fighting these wars to protect our country, they're trained to kill, they're trained to protect themselves, they're trained to survive. And so they have these different skills and mechanisms that they use, and it really comes kind of subconsciously. They don't really have to think much about it. It's just they react, right? And it works. It's healthy in a certain environment. If they're fighting war, they're on the battlefield. But when they're no longer on the battlefield, and they come back to the U.S., they come back to their place of origin to start a new life after they finish their time in the military, it doesn't quite translate over the same. And so here you see a very disheartening reality in America, where a lot of veterans who, yes, they were good for war and they were able to adapt to that environment and it worked and they were successful at that, but they, get the discharge from the military and they come back to the U.S. and what do you see? They're not able to adapt to this environment. They are lost. It's like they're put in kind of in a foreign environment, because everything that they've learned, every skill that they have attained, every way of reacting to a situation that they have learned consciously and subconsciously, it doesn't fit in this kind of environment, because we don't live in a war zone, not at least to the extent in which they were living in when they were across seas, where they were fighting in Afghanistan or Iraq, wherever they were. It just does not match up to the way in which we live here in America. It doesn't. It's two different worlds. The way they think does not fit. It's like, it's unfortunate, because I think that's the biggest challenge for a lot of veterans, is that they try to figure out ways of being able to create a new life, being able to translate their skills that they gained in the military and find jobs and be able to, just survive in America, and they're not able to do that. And unfortunately, they develop mental illness. When you're not able to survive and thrive in a certain environment, you're going to have a reaction to it, psychologically, emotionally, physically, to that loss. It's like you lost a sense of efficacy, your ability to be able to just live, to survive as a human being. You can't even do that because you're in a totally different environment. That the way that you think is not helpful. It's not even useful in this environment, And a lot of them, have paranoia. Paranoia may have been good when you're on the battlefield so that you can protect yourself against an attack. But when you're back here in America, that level of paranoia is not useful. It's not helpful. You may have been keyed up. You may have been guarded. You may have been very hyper vigilant, on the battlefield across seas. But when you come back, it's not useful. Same thing when it comes to relationships, the shit that people have been through in previous relationships, whether it was childhood, adolescent, adulthood. You know, sometimes you don't even have to go back that far in childhood. You can just go back to a person's 20s, their 30s, the shit that they have gone through and the way that they have learned to respond to those situations, those traumatic events may have been helpful in the moment. That's how they were able to survive, and they've held on to that dearly with their life. Because it's a survival skill, when you're going through shit, whatever it was. A lot of people, it's abuse. People feel threatened. People feel that their life is in danger. A lot of us have experienced those things, and the way that we were able to react, like out of human nature, it was useful in that moment. But now, when you're no longer there, you may be living in a different neighborhood. You may have a different income. You're in a totally different side of the country, or a different side of the world. You're not even in that same environment anymore, but yet you're still responding as if you are in that same environment. And then that's where the problem comes, You're interacting with people, a new set of people that have nothing to do with your past, in the same way that you interacted with those people who mistreated you, who harmed you. And when I talk about this, I kind of think about how African Americans interact with white people. Now, I know this is kind of controversial because a lot of us, of course, we are aware that racism still exists, but slavery, in the form that it was back hundreds of years ago, does not exist in this country. Cattle slavery does not, we're not in physical chains anymore, yet you still have African Americans interacting and responding to their environment as if we're still living in the 1600s, 1700s, 1800s. We're not there, but we're there mentally. And that's the power, the crazy thing about the mind, man. It's a powerful organ that we have embedded these memories, in our mind, and it's hard to shake those memories. It's hard to be able to create a new mind, a new brain. It's so hardwired into who we are. There's this thing that's called pain bodies, but it's basically as a response, a physiological response that our bodies adapt when we go through these terrible, painful experiences, and we store these awful memories in our bodies, in our mind. It's not just in our mind, but it's through our entire body from head to toe. That yes, it can protect us. So when we enter a situation, an environment, that through our senses, through our eyes, through our nose, what we feel, what we feel, through our hands, through tactile touch, and even what we feel in our hearts, it can alert us of certain dangers so that we are safe, we protect ourselves, we are able to respond quickly in the case of an emergency or something is a threat to us, Yes, it serves that purpose, but at the same time, if we're not careful, we can overreact. We can act in a situation or react in a situation that's not helpful in the present moment. I think that's what's happening with a lot of people, We carry these awful memories of what people have done to us in our past, and then new people come in our present, ain't got nothing to do with it, but somehow we can't let it go. We can't let it go. We don't feel safe, and those new relationships suffer, unfortunately. You're not even able to form healthy bonds with people because you're so fixated on what happened, and it is a subconscious thing. The thing about the conscious mind and the subconscious mind, the conscious mind you can manipulate, you can change, people say this all the time, it's very cliche. Oh, just change your thinking. You change your thinking, you can change the way you feel, the way you act, change your entire life, right? That's the whole premise of CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. Just change your thoughts. But the reality is that a lot of things that have affected us, yes, it's in our conscious mind, but most of it is stored in our subconscious mind. It's deeply rooted in who we are as human beings. So deeply rooted that it'll take years and years and years of therapy to kind of undo. You have to remap those connections that have been made in your brain. It's so hardwired in your neurology of your brain and in your body, even in your spinal cord. It has to be redone. Almost like you have to go through shock therapy just to be able to undo those connections, those neurological connections that have been made throughout our brain and through our spinal cord and our body. And I mean, yes, one response and one, I guess, solution to that would be therapy. Psychoanalysis, is said to be like the most common form of therapy where people go for many years and they're able to kind of rework those subconscious memories that have been stored to basically create an entire different mind, you know? And a lot of people don't really want to invest in that. They kind of want a really quick fix. So most therapists their framework is cognitive behavioral therapy. They kind of just deal with the here and now, and they'll work with you to kind of change the way you think in terms of your conscious thoughts. But to really go deep down into those repressed memories, those memories that have been stored for many years and you forgot that they were even there. It's like you've been through certain things in your childhood that have been stored. You forgot they were even there, but the psychoanalyst will go and uncover those repressed memories. They will deal with the dreams that you have, those visions that you experience when you're not even conscious, when you're asleep at night, and be able to work through those. And it can be scary because it's like when you're going to a psychoanalyst, you can feel the change in your body. It's like it's much deeper, it's much different. It's like a metaphysical change that you cannot resist when you're seeing a psychoanalyst. I think they do cost a little bit more than the typical CBT therapist, but it's worth it. Especially if you want to see better things happen in your life, because you can see a person can be very intelligent, like have a lot of potential, like they're very successful in certain areas, but certain areas are lacking. And just like you want to thrive in all areas of your life. And like I said, I can't call any names, but I've seen this happen with people who are in my inner circle, prominent people, and it's just like, we don't want to go there. I catch myself sometimes. It's like, I definitely don't want my past experiences to negatively impact how I interact with people. So it's always about kind of waking up every day with a fresh new mind. And when you think about that, forgiveness plays a significant role. But people struggle even with forgiveness. I think it's much easier said than done. Just like, oh, just forgive people and move on. People really don't want to forgive, And forgiving and forgetting is not necessarily the answer. Because you don't really forget. You may push it out of your conscious mind to not think about it. So it's not in your kind of day-to-day thinking. But trust and believe, that experience has been stored in your subconscious mind. So trying to forget about it or repress the memory, that's not necessarily helpful. You have to be able to restructure how that memory has been stored in your mind. You have to be able to reshape the way you even interpreted that experience. Because when we go through things in life, our mind automatically creates an interpretation of what happened. And a lot of times we develop this kind of woe is me victim mentality, and that shit is dangerous. Being the victim is a dangerous thing. Yes, it's something that we cannot control when it happened to us at whatever point in our life that it happened. But going forward, people that hold on to that victim mentality, like, it's dangerous. And when you relate to someone who presents themselves as a victim, for me, I know it's a turn off, because I'm just like, in a sense, yes, we're all victims, but that's not attractive. You know, like, you're supposed to be a survivor. You're supposed to overcome whatever has happened to you in your life. You know, like, as human beings, we're so much more powerful than our circumstances, than our bad experiences that have happened to us in life. We're so much more powerful than that. But to see how some people, they submit to that experience in a way that they feel weak, they feel overpowered, and they approach every single interaction in their present with that same mentality. It becomes part of their identity and who they are. And it's just like, when I see it happening, I immediately let a person know, like, you're not a victim. You know, like, no one is out to get you. People have this thing where they don't trust, and I get it. We live in a society, it's difficult to trust people, right? But I think there's levels to this mistrust thing. Yes, we have to be mindful of our society in which we live in. You know, my thinking is that I would like to create my own reality and my own way of looking at and interpreting the kind of world in which we live in. The media will like to try to convince us, especially with the news, what they show us and all these bad things happening, burglaries and murders and all of this stuff, that we live in a dangerous world. You know, you got to be safe. You got to get a security system. You got to do this. And I'm just like, that ain't the kind of world that I think God created for us to live in. And that's not the world, that's not natural. We got to get back to the natural world. And I think that we as human beings, we have the control, we have the power to create a world that is safe. It's in our mind, man. It's all in how we perceive and what we believe. You know, you can live in so-called the most dangerous zip code in your city, but it's all in your perception. You know, you can go out and recreate that neighborhood in a way that you impact people that you come across to reshape people's minds. That is not this dangerous neighborhood. I make an effort to do that wherever I go, you know, especially in neighborhoods where it's supposed to be high crime area, right? You can kind of feel, you can sense this kind of energy where people are very on edge, they're very mistrusting, they're very guarded. Like, it's an energy that you can feel, you can definitely see it visibly. People don't want to speak, they're very hesitant to interact, and I break that energy, and I go out and speak to people, and I smile and just try to create a sense of, this is a safe world. It's okay to relax, you know, exhale. And we wonder why in this country depression and anxiety are really high. I mean, majority of Americans have been diagnosed or will be diagnosed with anxiety or depression. The numbers are up there. They're through the roof. Millions of people suffer. And I think that, yes, we can blame the media. Yes, we can blame this and that. But we have to take responsibility, you know, for how we live our lives, you know. I'm not going to live my life like that. I always say, I will not live my life in fear. You can control anxiety. It's what you believe, man. It's a lot in what you think and what you believe. How you go about life. You don't have to go about life like that. You impact your environment. You have control over your environment. Yes, we can be a product of our environment, but we also can impact our environment in a positive way. That's a choice that you can wake up every day and make. A conscious decision to say, you know what, I'm going to go out and I'm going to give out 5 compliments to people and say, you know, nice shoes, I like your hair, you know, nice smile, I like your energy. Saying just something as small as that, when you think it's small, is really big. It can change that person's whole aura, you know, and then you notice that they will pay it forward. People, when they're treated a certain way, they pay that forward, whether it's positive or negative. If a person says, just imagine how you feel when someone compliments you, especially a compliment that you didn't even expect to receive. And you're just like, wow. And then you find yourself paying it forward to someone else and complimenting them not even an hour later, you know? It's a cycle. That's how we create a society. We have the power as individuals within a society, citizens within a society, to impact our environment. We don't have to wait on the news to tell us how we should think, how we should act and respond. We can go out and create that. That's really important, especially when it comes to on a micro level, when we're interacting with family members and friends and new people, because I think that's the biggest challenge. All of us, we can feel safe and comfortable with people that we've known for many years, you know, and there's this whole thing, oh, no friends. I think that's people's way of protecting themselves, right? But it's like, how can you exceed in life? How can you proceed towards your goals if you're like, oh, no new friends, no new interactions, I don't trust new people, and you move with caution, so much caution that you can barely even achieve what you need to achieve. There are different goals that very prominent people are working towards, but if you have this sense that, oh, you can't trust nobody, and you start treating people like they done something wrong to you, they're found guilty and they have to prove themselves innocent before they even did anything to you. That's not a way of being. Like, how can we create healthy relationships with people, especially on a business level, if that's the way you think automatically that someone is out to do harm to you, and you treat that person in a certain way? It's like, no, I would rather just give people the benefit of the doubt. People are so afraid because they're like, I'm going to be hurt. You can be hurt either way. So in your mind, you think, oh, it's a protective mechanism. I'm going to protect myself. So I'm going to have my guard up. I'm going to make this person go through all these hoops so they can get close to my heart. And you treat them like they already committed a crime when they ain't did nothing. No evidence to show that they did any harm to you, but you automatically start off from the jump and treat them that way. In your mind, thinking you're going to protect yourself, and you still get hurt. That's the funny thing about it. Like, so taking that approach to interact with people in your environment, to say that you don't trust them, it takes up too much energy, man. It's too much of a burden to bear, you know, because you still end up getting hurt, and at the same time, you walking around keyed up and tense, you know, and it's not helpful to your own sanity. It's not helpful to your own health, you know, and you push people away. It's like you want to attract good people in your life. You end up pushing the very people that God could have sent to your life. The blessings that you have prayed for, you push them away because in your mind you don't trust nobody. And people wonder why they're 30 and 40 years old and still are not measuring up to the person that they know they should be. They're still not achieving the things that they know they should have already achieved. Because you stay stuck. You're stuck in your past. Your past has crippled you so much that you're 30 and 40 years old, but it's almost like you're just 20 years old. You're 25 years old. You have not really progressed that far in life. We don't want to be crippled by our past. We want, yes, our past to be lessons to teach us, to empower us, to motivate us. But you don't want to be stuck. You don't want to stagnate yourself in that. And I see that happening. And it's unfortunate. I see that happening, you know, like I said, on a personal level with people that I've encountered. And it's just like, really, because of your past, it's going to dictate how you treat me? Like the saying goes, if you're not careful, you're going to bleed on people who did not cut you. They don't deserve to be bled on. They did not cut you, but you're so damaged on the inside. And people, they are pretty good at, you know, emanating this positive persona. You know, they're good at wearing these masks to communicate to the world that, oh, everything is all good, everything is fine. You know, they may have money and they can hide behind this false sense of self, you know, but deep down inside, they're hurting. They're not living up to their full potential. And it's unfortunate. We don't want to do that. I know I don't want to do that. And I constantly check myself when I find myself accusing people, mistreating someone, or treating them in such a way they didn't deserve. Yes, you want to make sure that you protect yourself. But I think that's a very fine line to walk. And protecting yourself to make sure that you don't get taken advantage of, or mistreated, when sometimes you really can't. There's nothing really you can do. If a person wants to take advantage of you, they will. If they want to mistreat you, they will. And then the people who are for your life, who are God sent for you, you end up treating them, pretty much putting them in the same box as everyone else. And it's unfortunate. We don't want that. So I'm going to go ahead and end this video. I got to get ready and go to the library. But I thank you guys for tuning in. I think that this topic is nothing new. I think that a lot of you guys have heard something very much similar. But sometimes we just need a reminder of these things. We need a reminder of the places that we're at in life and how our past can weigh so much heavily on our present. And it can impede our progress, and it can block our blessings. That's not what we want. We want to create a new self. We want to evolve. Yes, you can hold on to the person you were. Some people want to be so authentic that, okay, I'm never going to change. I'm the same person I was when I was 18 years old or 25 and 30. And I'm just saying, okay, good. But if you're holding on to certain aspects of that self that you were back then, and is not useful in the present, is dysfunctional in the present, why hold on to it? Let it go. Evolve. Recreate yourself. Rebrand yourself. It will be very refreshing. And that's, I think, the beauty and the mind that we have. It's so flexible. There's this thing in neurology that they talk about called plasticity of the brain, meaning that our brains are they're not hard, yes, they can be hardwired, but they're not permanent. So a brain can change over time, and we have the power to do that just in the way that we think. Being open-minded. Having a desire to change the way you think, challenging ourselves to think differently, to act differently, to do something different, to leave our comfort zone, to give people the benefit of the doubt. Because guess what? Somebody gave you the benefit of the doubt, and they could have said, no, I don't trust you. I'm not going to deal with you. But they gave you the benefit of the doubt. So give other people the benefit of the doubt. And look for the good in people. Don't wear these ugly colored glasses where you look for the bad in people. Purposefully put so much energy in trying to find the good in a person. Nurture that good. Bring that good out. That is your responsibility. If you want to contribute to society, that's the least that you can do. Look for the good in yourself, but more importantly, the good in other people. And on that note, I'm going to go. Feel free to comment below, share your thoughts, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Love you guys. Bye.